Welcome back to the glorious People's Republic of Rome. So first we're going to need to address the elephant in the room, the vote on religion. It's actually a lot closer than I thought it would be. When both Lollard and Orthodox passed 50 votes, I decided we were going to use an unorthodox way to decide who wins. Enter the wheel. Welcome to our wheel. As you can see, we have Lol and Orth. Lol representing Lollard, Orthodox represented by Orth. We've given Orthodox a bit of a bias because they're in the lead currently, so really they should just win. But anything can go in a spinning wheel, right? We'll say best 2 of 3, because it's more fun that way, right? Let's begin our first spin. Looks like the first spin's going to go to Lollard. A little unexpected. I expected Orthodox to win both of them, honestly. So that's 1 win for Lollard. Surely Orthodox will win the next 2. Ooh. Yes, Orthodox wins the second one, puts us on match point. Who will get the final spin? Based purely on percentages, it should be Orthodox, but who knows what will happen. Ooh. Whoa. Lollard wins. Huzzah. Well, not so huzzah for you Orthodox enjoyers. I personally wanted Lollard to win, but I was prepared to do either. Okay, so I guess we'll do it. You Orthodox enjoyers might feel a little sad, but don't worry. I'll make it up to you. When we finish this campaign eventually, we'll likely have a vote on our next campaign, and one of the options will be Byzantium. Maybe Trebizond, depending on how I'm feeling. And I'll give 10, plus 10 to the votes on Byzantium, so that has a higher chance of winning. For now though, let me just switch over to Lollard. I'm going to need to use the consul to do so because there's no Lollards in our country. To be fair, there's no Orthodox in our country either. I do hate using the consul, but we'll have to do it. There we go, we've switched to Lollard. We're also going to slap ourselves with a -50 stability to represent the act of switching religion. And now I'm going to turn the consul on. I can now no longer turn the consul on. Perfect. I hate using the consul, best to not have it. So we switched to Lollard. Now that we've switched, we've immediately become eligible for a disaster called the Religious Turmoil. There's a good chance it will trigger, and if it does, we'll be no more than we deserve. Before we continue though, let's take a little look at Lollard. So Lollard, by default, reduces the power of the clergy estate by 50% while empowering the peasant estate by 50%. It's actually one of only 2 religions in the game that do this. Then it gives us a little monthly religious power, and then it increases max literacy by 10% for all pops. This is one of only 4 religions in the game that do this, which is pretty nice, honestly. Our dreams of having fully educated peasants aren't so far away. It might actually be possible. So what are our goals for today? Well, we'd like to survive this religious turmoil or avoid it if possible. Other than that, we're going to continue our expansion into North Africa. We'd like to finish off Tunis and then start taking big bites out of Morocco. I am tempted to go again against Mamluks, but I think we need to build up a little. When it comes to finances, we're not doing that great. To be fair, we're spending a lot on our navy at the moment because we have such a large navy, as well as our army. A lot of that is due to reinforcing though. Once we've reinforced the soldiers that we've lost from the war with the Mamluks, our army will be in a much better position. Our army finances will be in a much better position. We can also stop funding our forts since we're no longer at war. Since we are now in the age of reformation, levies start to really fall off. Not only do they cost more to maintain, their efficiency has now dropped by 20% across the board. So it might be time for us to start transitioning, which we were kind of already doing, into that full standing army that we all know and love. We could try and rush our stability up in order to avoid the disaster, but I kind of don't want to avoid it. It would feel thematic to have a major disaster happen in our country, right, from switching religion. Everyone else is going crazy because of the Reformation, so we might as well go crazy as well. Guess we don't need to care about what the Catholic Church is doing anymore though. Right, I just got a message from the Big G, aka the government, that heavy winds may batter where I live and disrupt power, which would not be what I want. The elemental powers that be are trying to destroy my People's Republic. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, it might end up with this video having a bit of an awkward cut. I'm getting to the point where I have so many navies, it's hard for me to keep track of who's where and why they're there. But it's not a big deal. We'll assign a navy over to Tunis, start bringing them into our glorious naval republic. The disaster is triggered. Despite the country's effort to mediate between the different religious groups in our nation, conflict has erupted on a regular basis. The situation has worsened, and without drastic measures, we will be engulfed in a religious civil war. Clearly, the obvious option is we must strive for a tolerant society. So how do we end this? If we can get our humanism up high enough, it would end it. We'll also need to increase our stability pretty high as well, though. We can actually use this disaster to help push us towards humanism. Oh boy, oh boy. As you can imagine, the Catholics in our country aren't really happy with our conversion to Lollardy. So we're going to send Martin Luther to crack down on them. See if we can't keep them in check. It's going to be very hard because they're very unhappy. Going to set us back a little bit in our stability, but which we don't really like. But we're going to embrace the confessionalism institution. There's a few reasons. This is the reform which can give us this is the institution that can give us access to another government reform, which is always nice. Plus another cabinet seat, which is also nice. Also a decrease to war cost when taking land or doing anything, which is helpful. And look at that. And because we're part of the reformation, we can also get this extra 5% tax modifier. I'm going to preemptively start bringing the People's Legions home for the moment, just because there's a good chance we won't be able to stop the Catholics revolting, and we'll need the People's Legions to pacify the revolters. We've got that extra government reform I was talking about. I'm thinking on what to use this for. We could go for religious tolerance, which would increase the tolerance of heretics and heathens, as well as give us a little push towards humanism and communalism. We could also go for the humanitarian administration. This will give us an extra 20% for our cultural capacity. And since we have a lot of land that's part of us but not cored, because we haven't been able to accept the cultures, that would definitely help. In the same way, we could go for cultural recognition that increases our cultural capacity by just 1. The real question is, which will be better, a 20% increase or an increase of 1? Well, if we consider our current cultural capacity is 3, then the 1 option is of course better, but the question is, will we be able to increase our cultural capacity higher in other ways? Another option to go for would be this counter-espionage offices. This will increase pop assimilation speed by 25%, which is pretty fast. If we actually look at our pop right now, we've actually absorbed a lot of the Neapolitans in the world. There's 2 million of us now, and our culture is spreading quite quickly. We could go for this mandatory bureaucratic education for the extra 5 literacy, but we've already got quite a bit of literacy. That might be something we pick up later. I think we are going to go for cultural recognition, just so we can accept more pops and then convert them and then core the land they're in faster. Despite Martin Luther's best efforts, we haven't been able to keep the Catholics in check. There comes the Civil War. How does it look like? Well, we of course have the People's Legions on our side, so it should be an easy win for us. They've taken mainly the north of the country and some southern territories. They haven't taken anything in Africa, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's call up the People's Levies and send the People's Legions north to pacify the rebels. Martin Luther just died of old age. I clicked too fast so the event disappeared too quickly, but he's dead, it's over. Oh, and there goes the revolt too. I was going to say it was going on a little too long for my liking. While we were fighting the revolt, I was actually building a 3rd legion. Say hello to the 3rd People's Army. I've decided I'm going to start naming these in Roman numerals, so instead of naming them after the actual legions we're just going to we'll call them like I, 2 I's, and etc. Simply because I can't fit in the much larger names for the real legions. We've actually met the humanism requirement for ending this disaster. We just need to get our stability up to 30%, which is really just a waiting game. I'm thinking we start expanding instead of continuing to wait. It's unlikely there'll be another Catholic revolt, so I think we're going to continue our expansion into Africa. We're currently fabricating a casus belli on Morocco. Once that's done, we'll probably try and take as much land as we can from them. Morocco's quite big, but really they're nothing compared to us. There's the extra cabinet seat we always wanted. Now we can integrate even more land at an even faster rate. Oh no, my lights are flickering. The horror. Looks like Morocco is actually allied with Mali. They're not going to have a big impact though, I think. Let's declare our war. Do we need to dock our ships? I think we might need to. Yeah, we'll dock our navies, our mercantile navies for the time being. We'll let our actual navy do some fighting though. God, I wish there was a go to port during war button, so I didn't have to manually assign all these navies to hide. But oh well, what can you do? I'm not even going to bother raising levies for this war. We shouldn't need them. Partway through this war, Morocco has conquered most of Tunis. Tunis still exists all the way down here. I suppose that's a good thing, because it means we can just take this territory now without having to declare war on Tunis. We'll see how much we can grab from them. We're just focused on clearing them up at the moment. There goes the end of the religious turmoil. We're actually getting quite quickly, we're actually increasing our amounts of Lollards in quite quickly. I thought it would take a while, but no. Lollardism is spreading quite fast. Already 14% of the country is Lollard, mainly in Italy, of course. At the end of that disaster. The non-Lollards will become a little happier now, though. Looks like the Malians have actually showed up. I was a little concerned we wouldn't be able to defeat them to make them peace out, but if they're going to bring their guys over, we can just murder them, right? Look at that cool hat he's got. But it's not enough against the people. Off they go. Then comes a Moroccan wave. Off they go. Finally, Mali's willing to white peace. They were really what's holding us back here. With them white peacing, Morocco should be much more willing to make peace. Now we just need to wipe out these few Moroccans over here. We just need a tad more war scored for the Moroccans to make peace. There we go. Not really that amazing, but it's a lot of locations. We're pretty much taking as much war score as we could take. So we'll just have to be happy with that. Looks like we're going to experience another revolt by the Catholics. I was hoping we'd be able to pacify them fully, but it seems not. I mean, they're pretty close to being pacified. It's just there's a lot of them, and they're mainly revolting in our land that isn't cored up here, which is honestly to be expected. But we can only core so fast. It's taken a little while, but we've actually gained enough religious influence that we can apply one of our religious aspects. Let's have a look at them. We got quite a few here, and there's some very nice ones. One of the ones I really like is this translated Bibles. It gives max literacy plus 10 for everybody. And of course that adds on to our existing plus 10 we get from being Lollards in the first place. That will let us push our current maximum literacy rate from around 50% all the way up to 60 just from applying that religious aspect. Then we have this individual creeds. This increases pop assimilation speed by 10%, but also decreases rebel growth by 10%, which would be very helpful with a lot of rebels we have constantly spawning. Adult baptism, which increases pop conversion speed by 20%, which will really help the offset the negative from going full humanism. If we switch over to our religion, you'll see our conversion rate is only at 38% because it's getting the negative 50 from humanism. Then we've also got this appoint bishops. This gives the clergy 50% power, which isn't actually a big deal because they already lose 50% power from the fact that we are a Lollard. So basically it just restores them to their normal amount of power, and at the same time it reduces proximity cost by 5 in every location. Yes, all of them. Crazy, I know. Then we've got Crown as Head of Faith. This is also pretty nice. It just gives us 10% crown power, pushes up monthly control, and pushes us towards centralization. Should we crown the head of the Republic as head of the religion? The church is no longer subject to one external corrupt theocrat. Instead, all religious issues should be now directed to the ruler to serve as the new head of faith. It might be worth us grabbing this prior's parish registry because it increases our monthly religious gain by an extra 0.1, as well as increasing our tax efficiency, which means we'll get religious influence faster, which means it'll be faster to pass the next reform, as it were. There's so many options, it's kind of hard to choose. I think we're going to go for individual creed just to speed up the assimilation rate and decrease rebels. Here comes that Catholic revolt. We were very close to pacifying them. Very close. The revolt was nowhere near as large as it was the first time round. Oh well. We'll pacify this revolt and then we'll think about our next move because we want to expand more. There go those rebels. Now we're actually going to immediately declare war on one of these, or we would if we didn't have levies raised somewhere. But what we're going to do is we're going to attack one of the northern Italian states. Our goal is to, of course, conquer them, but they're also allied with other Italian states like Genoa, so we're going to bring them all in and just try and take as much land as we can from them as possible. These are the guys we've chosen. Upper Bavaria is the emperor now, but he's not willing to join the war. He's already busy at war himself. How does the Holy Roman Empire still exist? I mean, it barely does at this point. Let's get on with it. Where's my casus belli? Unfortunately, the Cleansed Heresy casus belli is pretty terrible. We're taking territory, but it's worth not losing the prestige, the legitimacy. And we're only going to be taking, like, the capital of this guy, so it's not a lot. So it's not like it's going to cost us much war score anyway. The real person that will cost us war score is Genoa, but we'll separate piece them and take a little bit of their land. France has started to encroach on us, though, which we definitely don't like. We are stronger than France, though, really. They have a lot more levies than us, but we have a much larger regular army. And since we have all of our Italian forts to do the heavy lifting, if it came to a war, surely we'd win. We're actually going to embrace artillery now. It only costs us 60 gold and 0.4 stability. So we're going to grab this. We're going to immediately rush down and grab these. How do you even pronounce that? I feel like I've never been able to pronounce this word. Arquebusiers, whatever they're called. We're going to rush down for them because once we upgrade to them, it will basically double the size of our armies because of how large this unit is compared to the existing one. For example, our existing halberdiers, I think they are. They're not halberdiers either. No, they're the early guys. These guys are made up of 400 people. So once we get to the upgraded one, it's made up of 800 people. So essentially we'll double the amount of people in these armies, which of course is great. We're also going to rush down for this cultural capacity plus 25 so that we can just integrate more land and more people. Then we'll see where we are. We'll probably rush down this other side so we can start making breaches really easy and we can get better cannons. One thing we do want to do as well is get the gun workshop level 2 so that we can start producing guns at a much faster rate. One of the things that makes the cost of maintaining these armies quite large is having to pay for all the guns until we actually get our gun production on really high. For our peace with Genoa, we're actually going to do this. The goal here is not necessarily to take all of Genoa, it's to cut them off from France so France can't expand into Genoa and take this land that is rightfully ours. We're also going to build lots of forts there and use the territory as kind of a delaying area, I suppose. Or at least the area we want to fight the French at. With that, the war's over. These few rebel states cleaned up. We're just going to fight a quick and easy war with the Venetians. Well, in reality, we declared war on Tunis. And because Venice was in a coalition against us with Tunis, Venice was drawn into the war. So we'll take advantage of that and try and annex some of their land. We're actually commissioning a 4th People's Legion at the moment in preparation for when our population of our armies explodes once we get the next level of regular soldiers. I'm preparing to do something a little crazy once that happens, but you'll have to wait and see. This People's Legion's finished. We'll call them the People's Legion IV, which is 4, I believe. Aha, there's our new army online. They're immediately start upgrading to better units with more pop in them. Look how cool they are now. They march really regimentally across the world. Oh, Tunis has rebelled. I was aware they were going to rebel, but I didn't think it'd be this bad of a rebellion. But honestly, they shouldn't be a problem. Ironically, we actually have some of the People's Legion already here, right in the center of their country. So it's probably not going to go very well for them, and it's very cheap on war score to actually take all of their land. Where have they put their capital? They put it right next to where our People's Legion is. Well, that makes it even easier.